Hello and welcome to FPL Have a Beer, where I invite you to have a beer with me or a suitable non-alcoholic beverage while I talk about FPL. Please like if you enjoyed the video, and at the time of recording, the channel is getting close to 800 subscribers, and it's my dream to get the channel up to 800 subscribers before it turns 6 months old, which when this interview comes out will be in a couple of days. So if you could help me get there by hitting the subscribe button, it means the world to me. Thank you so much if you do this. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, please check out channel memberships. They just cost 99p a month, and members get instant access to videos as soon as I upload them. So welcome to another interview in the Meet the FPL Manager, Meet the FPL Content Creator interview series, where I ask one of our lovely FPL content creators onto the channel to chat about their experiences of FPL and content creation, their thoughts on FPL and mental health, and we have a general chat just towards the end about how their season is going. So for the latest entry in this series, we have the pleasure of being joined by a legend in the FPL community, FPL Salah, aka Abdul. Abdul, it's great to have you on the channel, mate. Your name's come up a few times over the 25-ish interviews I've done so far. So brilliant to finally get you on here, a legend of the community. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm not sure about legend of the community, but I'll take it. But yeah, no, nice to be here, man. I watched a few of the videos. I watched like the general his video, and I've seen Mark Sutherns one, so I really liked them. Something different, obviously to the usual kind of FPL content. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So obviously you've watched. I mean, we talked before we started recording. You've watched a couple. So what I usually start out with is just a few sort of general warm-up questions. So things like where are you from, Abdul? Where did you grow up? What team do you support? Early memories of football, things like that.
Yeah, so I was born and bred in Dundee, up in Scotland. Probably tell from the accent. But ethnically, I'm Pakistani. So my parents came over here from Pakistan when they were young, settled here. Now football. So I've grown up in Dundee as well. I've not really kind of moved out. So I've just been here now. I've got a family here.
What, mate? So why did they choose Dundee? It didn't seem like the first place.
No. So in Dundee, there were a lot of work in the jute mills.
Right.
My dad came here with my granddad, and they got work in the jute mills because there was
a jute mills, mate. Sorry.
So it's jute. It's like a fabric.
Oh, okay.
So it used to be like kind of jute mills. So it was like on like labor intensive machine work basically.
Yeah.
Making jute. So obviously those kind of factories are defunct now. But yeah, that's how I ended up here in a sense. But yeah, so I think that was back in the 70s or something. And there's a lot of work in the UK and a lot of factory work up and down the UK.
Mm.
But yeah, so I've been here since. Football team now, you'll be probably surprised to hear that I'm a Man United fan.
Not Dundee United, I'm shocked.
I support Dundee United as well.
Oh.
I support Dundee United, my local team. Admittedly, I have not. I wouldn't say fallen out of love with Scottish football, but I watch it a lot less often now. Probably partly due to FPL, but mostly kind of due to like the quality and stuff.
Do you play the Scottish FPL? There is a Scottish version, isn't
there? So I played the first season it came out, and I just couldn't get into it. It's kind of like, for me, it's just like FPL or nothing really. Not FPL, but usually like, English Premier League mostly. I couldn't really get into the Scottish game, but I did play it in the first season. It came out. I did wish they would have stuck to it and like maybe made the game a bit better, like in terms of the graphics and that. Maybe would have stuck to it, but I think they've stopped now. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I support Man United as well. I mean, I think you probably noticed with a lot of people who don't live in England, like in Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, like they've got an English team, right? Because English League is the one.
Yeah.
Most of my mates are Liverpool fans. A few Arsenal in there. And I supported Man United from a young age. The reason being really is because I kind of grew up in the kind of early 90s when Man United were in their heyday. Sir Alex Ferguson was there. That was part of the reason why I kind of, supported them. I've never been like I guess a hardcore fan. I've been to a few, I've been to games in that, but I think when you're not from this city, it's hard to be like I guess a proper fan, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're kind of watching from afar, but I did support them, and I loved that era of the class of '92. Beckham, Giggs, Roy Keane, all that era, and then went up to Wayne Rooney, Lampard, Gerrard. That's probably my favourite era, actually. All those players.
Yeah, I think even I supported them when they were in the Champions League that season, so exciting, and it was the first ever English team I saw win a European Cup.
Yeah, and the treble in '99 was probably one of my most memorable football moments of all time. Like, I remember everything about that day. What I had for breakfast and everything. So that was that was great. But yeah, I mean, obviously you probably noticed, my name's FPL Salah. So why have I got a Liverpool player as my kind of Twitter handle? So there's a story behind that, and I'll kind of explain it just so the viewers aren't confused. But basically, as I said, I've never been like a kind of a tribal fan. I've always enjoyed watching players from other teams, like your Gerrards, your Lampards. You kind of always appreciate that. I've never been like one of those guys who just hates other players, because they play for a rival team. With FPL now, with Salah, it was because he came into the league and he was like basically the first Muslim superstar to come to the Premier League and be like a big kind of world famous kind of athlete. And me being a Muslim, that kind of really resonated with me. And when he was scoring, he was doing the celebration where he bows down. So he was quite proud about his religion. And for me, especially kind of growing up, when I was in secondary school, 9/11 happened and all that kind of stuff. There's always just since then been a lot of stigma about Islam and Muslims. And I think for me, he brought a bit of I guess normality towards Muslims, and because obviously if people hear about things in the news and all the bad kind of the bad propaganda and mostly lies, but then they'll see Mo Salah he's a Muslim and he doesn't look like or sound like the guys I'm hearing about in the news. So for me that was quite quite a personal thing, and I like the fact that he was quite proud about his religion, and I guess he kind of shone a good light on Islam and on Muslims.
Yeah.
So that was the reason. And when I first started off on Twitter, I was never intended to have kind of show my real identity. It was just like a thing I'd done just to I guess I was an FPL addict kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I wasn't ever intended to become a content creator or anything like that. And it just kind of happened, it just kind of blew up because I had a few good ranks, and I had a few good seasons while I was on Twitter as well. And then I got asked to do FPL content, so it just kind of went from there. So yeah, that's the story behind FPL Salah.
Can I ask you a question from a complete what's the word?
Yeah, of course, man.
Naive or ignorant perspective. Do you know? Because I mean, it took us a few weeks to set this up because it was Ramadan. Do you know when they speculate, particularly with an FPL, that it affects Salah or the players? Is that a thing? Do you think or?
Well, for a normal person, it definitely affects you, right? For me, if I was to play a game of football while I was fasting, I'd be breathing at my backside. But with Salah and that, you've got to kind of realise that these guys are professional athletes who have got, I guess they've got nutritionists, they've got people telling them when to eat, what to eat, and things like that. So it's probably not affecting them as much, or even at all, really. And there's another thing as well, if you're travelling, so just say you're traveling somewhere far and it's hard for you to fast, you don't actually have to fast. So there's that as well. But most players do it anyway because it's kind of easy enough for them. And I mean, it's not only Salah. You get some Mazraoui who was fasting when Sadio Mane was in the league. They were fasting, and it didn't seem to affect them whatsoever. No. So I guess for I guess for an athlete, it doesn't really make much difference. But for guys like me, it probably would.
Yeah, he's probably got people to cook his food for him night and day and stuff as well, isn't he? So would you say you're more of a Dundee or a Man United supporter?
Definitely Man United. I mean, it's just because, I mean, as I said, I've always kind of followed United and the scores and that, but I've never kind of just really because of the quality of the football, really, and just because all my mates are either Liverpool or Man U or Arsenal fans, and we're always banting each other. And we would sometimes go to the games, like they'll go to Liverpool games. My son's a Liverpool fan, so I took him to his first Liverpool game like a few months ago. So I've been playing FPL for like 16, 17 years now.
Wow.
So since then I've been really kind of invested in the English Premier League, like just because obviously because I play the game, and I'm now kind of creating content for it as well.
I'm glad you said that, to be honest, because I've got a couple of questions about the team you support, and probably most people wouldn't know who you were talking about if it was Dundee. So,
yeah.
Favourite ever Man United player?
Oh, it's probably Wayne Rooney.
Wayne Rooney. Any particular reason?
Yeah, I just loved the way he played. I loved how hard he worked for the team. I think he was. I think he could have even been better than what he was. I think if his lifestyle was a bit more like, just say, Ronaldo, who was there for a short period of time as well.
Yeah,
I think he could have gone to great heights.
He was better than he was better than at 18, wasn't he? He was a better player than Ronaldo.
Oh yeah. I mean, when Ronaldo came to Rooney, like Rooney was miles ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I think talent-wise, if you're looking at, I mean, I know people say this kind of natural talent thing, but if you're looking at natural talent, Rooney is a better player than Ronaldo. Ronaldo just, obviously he's a fantastic player as well, but he just put in the effort. He was like a workaholic, and fair play to Ronaldo. That's that's how he's become one of the greatest players ever. But Rooney was just magical. Like some of the goals he scored. One goal that kind of sticks out to me was that goal against Newcastle, where he's arguing with the ref about a free kick, and then out of nowhere he just volleys it in.
Remember that one? Yeah.
Remember that one, yeah. And his overhead kick against City, just good memories, and I just love the way he played, and just kind of everything about him. He's probably my favourite. I mean, closely followed by Ruud van Nistelrooy, by the way. I loved him as well, just because of he was like one of the first proper prolific goal scorers for Man United. Since I watched them, and again, good memories there.
It was weird, really, because like they had Cole and York, who weren't really quite as much goal scorers, but when they got Van Nistelrooy, it was kind of when the downturned the fortune, wasn't it, for a bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a special mention York and Cole as well, but they were a great partnership, especially Andy Cole. I mean, I think he's so underrated. He was a killer in front of goal.
Yeah.
But it's just something about Rooney that just kind of appealed to me as a kid, because he just burst on the scene at 18 as well. I saw him with that goal against Arsenal again when he played for Everton, where he's 16 years old.
Oh,
just held in the top corner. So yeah, I was just kind of mesmerised by him at a young age, and he was like one of the first players. I think now you get a lot of players coming into the league who are like 15, 16. Seen that 15-year-old who came on for Leicester the other day, Jeffrey Monga, and it happens quite a lot now. Yamal, he's been playing since he's 16.
Oh, the Barcelona lad, yeah.
Yeah. But back then when Rooney came in at that 16, it was unheard of, like a 16-year-old coming in and playing in the first team. So that was just kind of new, and
particularly for the Premier League, because it's so much more physical, wasn't it? He was like a boxer. He was sort of built like, weren't he?
Yeah. He did look 16, but
I will say,
he was a big lad.
I will say, he has. I've never seen someone. I don't want it to sound bad, but I've never seen a player retire and put on quite as much weight quite as quickly as he is. He's an even bigger lad now, isn't he? But
yeah.
So next question, I think you've already kind of answered.
I guess it's just that.
Sorry, mate, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Favourite memory? I'm guessing it's the Champions League triple, yeah?
Favourite football memory? Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be, because I was. I remember I was watching that game and just like feeling kind of dejected, because I just thought Man United was going to lose. The Bayern Munich final I'm talking about, and those last two goals in the last few minutes. Yeah, you can't really beat that as a Man United fan. But yeah, that was nice.
I actually watched it back about a year ago. It was actually a terrible game, but no one really remembers that, do they? They just remember the last.
Yeah, to be honest, I only remember. I can't remember much. I can't remember Bayern Munich's goal, to be honest. I just remember.
Yeah, it was 2-1.
The last two goals in the last few seconds of the game.
Do you think? I mean, how badly do you think they're doing this season? Do you reckon Almiron should go in the summer?
Oh, no way. I mean, I think we need to give him at least another season. I think he's came in. I mean, anybody that's came into Man United since Fergie left, it's been like a poison chalice. And Yeah, and I quite like the fact he's sticking to a system. He's done that. I mean, no matter what the results, he said he's going to stick to the system and he's going to get. So I'm hoping he gets the players he wants in the summer, who will suit that system, and we can kind of go from there. I think we have seen a bit of an improvement in the last month or two. Dorgu's been playing well, Zirke's been playing well. Bruno's always kind of up there. So
He's back.
Ugarte's been yeah. So yeah, give him another season at least, and let's see what happens. I've not got my hopes up, and I mean I don't think we're going to be fighting for the top 4 next season. Hopefully, I'm kind of delightfully surprised, and we are. But yeah, let's see. It's a long and winding road, I think, for Man United just now.
So when did you first get into fantasy football, mate? Be it FPL or a different version, some people.
So I started playing FPL. Let me just
say 17 years ago.
Yeah, so my first season was the 2007-8 season. So this was my 17th year, or my 18th year, I think.
Pretty much when it started, then, or a couple of years in.
Yeah, I think it was maybe around about a year or two before that year. But yeah, one of my mates just asked me, says, like, you want to play, you want to enter our fantasy football league? And I remember that year because I started playing in game week 2 that year because I didn't always sign up in time, and my mate had told me about it, and entered the mini league with my mates and ended up winning it, even though I started one behind. So that's what kind of got me into it, because it's all about the mini league banter and with your mates, and then it gets more competitive, and then you start consuming content. Like I remember in my early days, I remember going on Google and typing in like fantasy football tips or something, and then I came across Fantasy Football Scout, who Mark Sutherns, obviously, the guy who kind of created that website. And that's kind of where my, I guess, fantasy football kind of journey really started.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a. I was about to say obituary. That's I've got a little bit of something to say about Mark Sutherns in a minute. But first of all, we'll wait 1 second for that. Any early memories of fantasy football? Obituary is a really bad word, isn't it? A word of appreciation. That's what I said.
What? Sorry,
about Mark Sutherns, but I'll get to that in a bit. So, any early memories in particular stand out of you of FPL?
Of FPL, yeah. I mean, I think, I guess, when I kind of got into FPL in terms of going on the websites and going on Fantasy Football Scout, when I started getting better ranks,
serious
yeah, when I was getting serious. I remember one particular moment when I had Sessegnon, who played for Sunderland in a double game week, and I captained him, and he blanked in the first game, and in the second game it was like 8th, 9th minute. He had no returns. I remember I was listening to the game in my car on the radio, and then Sessegnon scored in the 90th minute of the second game of the double game week, and I just remember going absolutely ballistic. I was driving like a Toyota Corolla or something at the time, one of my first ever cars, and yeah, that was a nice moment. There's been a few kind of good moments. I remember bringing in John Stones because I couldn't afford Diaz a few seasons ago.
A double game week where he scored a couple of goals, didn't he?
He scored a brace, yeah. I bought him in 1 minute before the deadline.
Nice.
And he scored a brace. So yeah, there's a lot of nice memories, man. There's probably too many to mention, but those are kind of the ones that stick out in terms of the actual FPL game.
Nice one. So before we go on to talk about how you got into content creation, yeah. So we are recording this the day after Mark Sutherns announced he's going to be quitting Black Box, and at least for the moment, FPL content creation entirely, as we believe, me and Abdul were talking before we started filming, behind the scenes, as it were, in the Premier League / FPL. So I just wanted to say, because Mark coming on here was, I mean, it's the most watched video on the channel. It's probably the biggest one. Just thanks so much for him coming on here, and good luck with a new role, and thank you for all you've done for the community down the years. It's quite funny actually, Abdul, because when I interviewed Mark, he said to me beforehand, no one's ever said to me, you can't discuss, we can't discuss anything, and he was like, we can't talk about the future of Black Box or the behind the scenes working in the Premier League. So I just said, fair enough, because I'm not going to ask about that anyway. And then I thought about it, and I woke up the next day, and I sent a voice message to a friend of the channel, Steve-O, and I said, by the end of the season, I'm going to predict that Mark Sutherns will have left Black Box and will be working for the Premier League. And unfortunately, I was actually right. I mean, he said it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but he didn't even make it to the end of the season. We've got like 6 or 7 game weeks to go, haven't we?
Yeah, it's a shame, man, because honestly, like he always created a fantasy football scout, and that's where my, I guess, kind of journey kind of started. Because if it wasn't for that website, honestly, if it wasn't for me finding that website, I probably wouldn't have be doing what I'm doing right now. I think that goes for a lot of other content creators as well, because he kind of started that process of FPL content, with articles on the websites and the Scoutcast, with him and Granville. And I think a lot of content creators, especially ones who kind of played the game back then and were frequent, were on, on that website, like posting and stuff, will say the same. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame we're not going to see him doing FPL content because he's great. But at least he's going to the Premier League, and in terms of, he's going to be working towards the game. And there's no better person to do that than him.
I think he'll be back at some stage, because he seemed to really... He was biting to get back, he told me in the interview, when he was out for a couple of years. I mean, he might be away for, years or whatever, but I think I don't think we've seen the last of Mark Sutherns, put it that way. But
yeah, I mean, hopefully he does some like guest appearances here and there. I think it's a fact that because he's working, he can't do FPL content creation, but I guess a guest appearance here and there won't do any harm, will it, really?
So it sort of leads into the next question anyway, because you're sort of talking about FF Scout there, and how did you get into being a content creator? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so as I said, look, that was never my intention. I used to like post on Fantasy Football Scout because there used to be like a forum there, where we used to like share ideas and pretty much what Twitter is now, but on Fantasy Football Scout.
What sort of time would this be? You get into doing that?
So this was probably in the first few years, right? I'd say in the maybe 2011, 12, up until then, I think maybe 12, 13 or 13, 14 is when kind of Twitter or FPL Twitter started. And I just noticed like a lot of people were going over to Twitter. So I had like a personal Twitter account. So I just used to like follow some FPL accounts at the time who, nobody really had really that big of a following. And I just realized the discussion was a lot better then. Obviously Twitter was, much better than it is now, especially the FPL community. But yeah, so I just noticed people were going. So I just kind of went over there and stopped really going on Fantasy Football Scout, really, because everyone's kind of moved over, and the discussion was, I guess, more fruitful in Twitter, because you had, you were just kind of tweeting live, and you could reply live rather than post on the website and wait for people to reply to you and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I said I created an FPL username, FPL Salah, because I said I wanted to stay anonymous, didn't intend to do anything. But what happened was I just started. I had a few good ranks, so I had like 3 top 1Ks, by the time I was on Twitter, and I've got 4 top 1Ks now overall. So I had a quite decent record, and my first few seasons on Twitter as well, I had I got some good ranks. So that kind of, I guess, led to my followers growing.
Yeah, getting traction sort of thing.
Yeah, and then I just started like kind of posting the clean sheet odds and the anytime scorer odds, and that was just something I always used to do because I always used to check that before. Obviously, I don't gamble or anything. I don't condone gambling, but I always used to check that the anytime scorers and the clean sheet odds, for FPL purposes. So I just thought, I might as well start posting it because it's it'll be helpful to the community. And then because of that, I just kind of grew further and further, and I just ended up growing a lot bigger than I expected. And then Will from I don't know if you know Will, he's the CEO of and the founder of Fantasy Football Hub.
You're the first Fantasy Football Hub person I've got to do. So I'm waiting. I'm gonna sort of like, I thought I'll get FPL Salah, and then they can all expect messages from me probably over the next couple of weeks, months.
I know there's a bit of stigma around that, and I know what you mean, but
yeah.
But look, Will's a great guy. Fantasy Football Hub for me is a great website,
I
and
think
there's always going to be.
He's got an amazing rank history himself, isn't he, Will?
Oh yeah, Will's one of the best managers ever. He's got 4 top 1Ks as well. He's doing fantastically this season. So early days, so this is kind of when Fantasy Football Hub started off. Can't remember what year it was, but he had asked me to start doing articles, on my kind of clean sheet and anytime scorer odds, because he saw it was
16, 17, I think, was it? I think
yeah, you could be right. You could be right, yeah, maybe 15, 16, 17, one of those. So then I started writing for Fantasy Football Hub, like 1 article a week, and I just kind of grew from there. Then I started doing more articles because the articles are doing well. I started doing videos, and that was it. I just kind of just grew from there, and I've since then I'm working quite a lot for Fantasy Football Hub now. I do videos, I do the articles. And then from that, I managed to get a gig at The Athletic as well. Been there. This is my 3rd year now at The Athletic, and then.
So what? Yeah, I noticed them more on your Twitter page. What do you do for them?
For The Athletic, so I write articles for them. So I'm doing 2 articles a week, just FPL articles. Advice. Things like it's chip season right now, so. Advice on what to do with your team and how to approach certain game weeks, and anything happens like any injuries to players, what replacements. Yeah, so just the kind of articles you see on Hub and Scout, but it's for The Athletic. So The Athletic, I've got an FPL Hub there as well now. Had it for quite a while, but Mark the General, who you had on a few weeks ago, he used to do a podcast for them. I know he talked about why that had to come to an end, but then they still want to do articles and yeah, I guess they're looking to grow in that space again. There obviously some sort of issue or clash with the New York Times who took over, but I think the FPL segment for The Athletic is growing again.
I mean, you think they would get it because I do research on fantasy football and mental health, and I know from that the NFL fantasy is, if we think fantasy Premier League's big, that's like gigantic.
Oh yeah.
So you know what I mean? You think the Americans do know about fantasy, so you think it would kind of, particularly with the Premier League, you know what I mean? Like two.
Yeah, I mean, like even the fantasy baseball is huge. NFL is massive. I don't know what it was, to be honest. I guess if you look at it that way, FPL is still in its kind of infancy stage, right? Or just maybe past the infancy stage. I mean, it's nowhere near the level that NFL and baseball is at, and I think that's where it's heading, but it's not quite there yet. So I think once it gets there, then or approaches a certain kind of, I guess, milestone or a certain level of popularity, then they'll probably look more into kind of, I guess, bringing out podcasts again and things like that. But yeah, it's fairly stable just now.
So what were those early experiences like doing your first videos on Hub and I don't know, writing your first?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, man, because I'm not really I guess I don't see myself as a good speaker or a good on the camera. So yeah, I guess it was hard for me to kind of get into that. I have obviously gotten used to it a lot more now, and getting invited on to like the FPL show and things like that as well. That really helps with your kind of confidence, and you're speaking on the camera and things. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't it didn't come naturally to me. I wouldn't say.
No, nervous quite at the start. Or?
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of nervous. You're thinking like what if I say something stupid? What I do? You think about the comments and things like that. But over the years, I've just learned that it's just it doesn't bother me at all now. I don't really get nervous now coming on camera or anything like that. But in the early days, it wasn't something that came naturally to me. Unlike most people, there's a lot of other content creators out there who are just really natural and good on the camera and nice to listen to and things like that. I didn't see myself as one of those, but I think I'm a lot better than I was all those years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a lecturer, so I'm sort of used to talking, but the first, it took me 8 weeks before I wasn't shaking, standing in front of people talking. It's just, but it's
you have to get used to it.
Yeah, it's practice, isn't it? I think most people can get used to it after practice. So was going to pick up on that. So, I mean, I suppose the highlight really of any content creator's career is being invited on the official FPL show. I mean, I am available, Kelly, if you're watching. FPL Have a Beer is available. I mean, what was that like? You must have been excited when you got that invite.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, especially my first, like, I remember the first, because you either go down to the studio in London or you get to go on Zoom. And because I live up in Dundee, it's hard for me to kind of travel down there. So I usually do it via Zoom. But the first time in the studio was quite surreal. Just seeing, you go in the green room, you see the likes of Darren Bent, Jermaine Beckford, Alan Shearer, Ian Wright, all these guys doing all the other shows, and you getting your makeup done and things like that. It's pretty cool, man. It was a really cool experience, and every time I've been down, I've loved it. But yeah, I guess that is a real highlight, and it's just like, it just goes to I mean, I'm just like so grateful that I got to do this. I kind of feel like, how the hell did this happen? Just for me, like, just playing a fantasy football game.
Sorry, are you full time?
Well, kind of, right. So I've got a full-time job, right? But
so no,
yeah. So like no, but then the work I do for FPL is almost full-time. Like I started off doing it part-time, but as the work's grown, as I've gotten kind of more work from Hub and the Athletic and that, it's getting to that stage. Excuse me. So I've had a few opportunities to go full-time, but I've just not done it yet. It's not really made sense financially just yet. But if that opportunity comes along, if it does make sense, then I'd go for it. But yeah, right now I'd say 2 full-time jobs, like in FPL and my marketing role.
Have you ever thought about like setting up your own YouTube channel or podcast?
You know what, I have, but I'm just one of those people who, honestly, I'm quite lazy. I'd say I procrastinate a lot, and I have thought about it a few times. And yeah, the one thing that puts me off is like the graft you've got to put at the start, because I know like I'll need to make a lot of time for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to make a lot of time for it. And yeah, I mean, look, I might do one day. I might do, but at the moment, I've just not got the time for it. I've got 2 kind of young kids as well. Maybe when they get a bit older, possibly, or if I get a bit of time from somewhere, then I might do it. But I mean, there's so many good content creators out there as well at the moment. Like, I'm not really sure what if I'd offer anything different. I know that maybe doesn't make a difference in terms of doing well, but
you want to add something,
I guess. Yeah. So I don't think I'd add anything new to what's already out there. But if I find that I start it and I enjoy it, then I'd just do it regardless. But it's always the hardest. Like, starting off is always the hardest in everything. Like when you go to the gym, like when you're starting off at the gym, that's the hardest. Or when you start off anything, it's just that's the biggest obstacle for me, is just getting started. And I think if I did get started and I enjoyed it, then I'd just stick to it. I'd go all in.
I guess you're doing the team reveals and everything on Hub as well. You've kind of covered what most people would talk about in the standard videos anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I do the team reveals for Hub, and I think that the team reveals are like the biggest, the most popular and most viewed videos for the content creators, and that's what people want. I mean, look, see, with FPL content, it's like it's great people doing something different, like yourself, and like there's few others who do different things, but at the end of the day, like it's one of those things where people don't have. I mean, the mass audience don't really have time to consume, like kind of, I guess, niche content on FPL. They just want to see, all right, what this guy's doing, what FPL Harry's doing, what Andy's doing, or one of these guys, and either just copy them or just see what they're doing, just to get that that bit of help on their team. That's the mass audience. It's like I guess the kind of the hardcore community, like us, and like the guys on FPL Twitter, who are quite frequent, who really enjoy this type of content. And there's not enough of us yet, I think, for for niche content to kind of blow up. But hopefully, sometime in the future, it will.
Yeah, it was interesting. I did a sort of mapping exercise of how many potential subscribers I would have for this channel, and I sort of went maybe 1,000 subscribers, which I'm slowly edging towards. So it'll be interesting to see like if it goes beyond that, because it's sort of like as you say, it hasn't quite reached that point yet, has it?
Nah, but I think I mean it's going in that direction for sure. I mean, I think like doing this type of content, like niche content, even though the views aren't as good as you'd do if you were doing like, I guess, commercialized content, right? Let's call it. I mean, as long as you're enjoying it and as long as it's something that people watch, I think keep doing it. I mean, like I'd give an example, like FPL Juice, like they've got like an in studio podcast. I mean, when you look at their kind of production and the entertainment value, it's fantastic. Like, I'll put it on sometimes. Like, I don't get much time to watch FPL content, I'll be honest. And when I do watch it, it's only like a few guys, and that's something I'll sometimes put on. And they've got nowhere near as many followers or subscribers as they should. Like, if you look at like their studio and their setup, and it looks like there's been a bit of money kind of put into that as well. And
I've been on there, Abdul, and I was told by someone else they get it for free. Basically, they get the studio for free because the producer's a massive FPL fan. Nice. But if they didn't, that amount of space for that 2 hours they're in would cost nearly $1,000.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like crazy. I was shocked when I first seen that studio. I was like, wow, fair play to these guys. And like, and if these two guys sat at home doing like team reveal videos, they'd have 10 times as many subscribers. But you know what? It's I think end of the day, do what you enjoy, and I think it's pretty cool that people are doing different things.
Yeah, and if anyone is an FPL Juice fan, I did have Nick from there on a couple of, I guess it'll be about a month ago by the time this comes out. Okay. So next thing I generally ask is sort of a yin yang situation. What are the positives and the negatives of being a content creator? Maybe you could start off with whichever you want.
I mean, positives are just that you're doing something you love, enjoy. You're talking about football. You're talking about like fantasy football, which is like a hobby, and you're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And that's like you can't ask for much better. I mean, I think if you give anybody the option in life, of making money off your hobby, they'd bite your hand off. I mean, the negatives are, I guess, being out in the public eye to a certain extent, on social media, you need to be careful what you say and things like that, and people just being negative. I mean, no matter how much of a good person you are, or how nice you are, there's always going to be people that don't like you. Yeah. And that's what you've got to realize. And I think the negatives of that are just those kind of negative comments you get, but you've got to like filter them out. And I think as the community grows, it's just natural. Like when the community was much smaller, you had none of this. There's a you probably know as well. There's there's few people in the community who like to overly criticize content creators for no good reason. And maybe some of them are for a good reason, but they just like to jump on. As soon as they see something that they can jump on, no matter how small it is. And you see that now, right? But when the community was smaller, that would never happen. But with any community, once it grows, I guess the personalities of the community, are more varied. So it's going to happen, and it's natural. So that's the only kind of negative I'd say. But I think that the positives as a content creator in FPL like far outweigh the negatives. I think if you're a person who isn't too thin-skinned, I think you're totally fine.
Yeah, it's sad really that those. I'll tell you off camera. But the particular people out there, it's sad that they're there. It's only a very, very. I mean, it's literally a handful of people, isn't it? And sort of, it's just sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a very small handful. And the thing is as well, people love drama, right? So when those people say these things, people will just kind of jump in and you know, even though if they don't agree with the person, but they just like that bit of drama. I guess it's kind of human nature.
Yeah.
And they'll just kind of like it and agree with them or whatever.
And
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man.
X loves that sort of thing in general, doesn't it? Not just FPL. It just loves drama, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, I mean, all the interactions.
So I like to think there might be a few up and coming content creators or people that have just started. Abdul, what advice would you? I'm just realising how well I know this script by now because I haven't actually got this question in the script. It just came into my head. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to start out, mate?
I mean, I just said just like get started. I mean, I know that's quite hypocritical of me, just of me saying like, you know, I'm a bit lazy and I've not been able to start my own kind of thing in terms of like podcast or YouTube, but just get started. And if you enjoy it, just keep doing it. I mean, I've seen a lot of like new content creators now. I mean, there's so many now, honestly, you kind of lose track, but I've seen just some of them pop up and, you know, the video quality is great. There's no reason why, you know, they can't make it. But it's just one of those where I think in YouTube in general, it's like the first, I guess, 1,000 subscribers or the first, like, you know, phase is the toughest of building your followers and viewers. And once you get to a certain point, it just kind of rockets. That's what I've noticed with a lot of content creators anyway, like, you know, the likes of with Harry, FPL Mate, all these guys, Raptor, you know, they kind of shot up quite quickly. But they put in the graft at the start. And I think that's what you've got to do, just kind of put in the graft. And if you enjoy it, keep doing it. Because FPL's not going anywhere, man. It's like, it's one of those things where I just think it's just going to, I don't know if it'll get to the levels of like NFL or like, you know, those levels, but I think it definitely can.
Yeah.
Because like about 6-7 years ago, FPL was only FPL. Now it's like, it's on the official clubs are talking about it. They're tweeting about it. The players, like, they're doing player interviews where they're talking about fantasy football and things like that. So it's like it's going mainstream. It's going in that direction.
They bloody love it, don't they? The players. I think like more of them must play it than don't. Do you reckon? This question just came into my head. Like, obviously, a lot of people started from Fantasy Football Scout, FPL Hub. Do you reckon those guys still like are recruiting like they did you? Over seasons, do you know what I mean, or do you reckon that avenue sort of passed? Because obviously they've both got so many content creators already there. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question actually, because you're right. Because if you look at both, right, they're not short of content creators.
No.
But I mean, there's always going to be opportunities. There's always going to be opportunities. As I said, things are expanding. So I only think, like, you know, Hub and Scout are going to start recruiting more content creators, you know, as more content is going to become, I guess, you know, needed. So I think it's not as like when FPL Twitter first started off, there was like a big kind of rise and, you know, a big need for content creators for these types of websites, but not too much anymore. But there's always like going to be scope for opportunity.
There's always going to be people leaving and going on to new things, isn't there?
They're doing their own things, like, you know, there's people who have been on Scout, like I know Andy FPL used to work for Scout, I think.
He did.
He did, yeah. So then he went from obviously there and launched on YouTube channel. Now he's biggest FPL YouTuber, you know, by far.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like, there's always going to be opportunities. There's always going to be opportunities, and I think now there's kind of a lot of opportunities in the back end as well, like things like, you know, marketing strategies and SEO and all that, and all things like that. You know, Google Analytics. You know, there's a lot more scope in the back end of things nowadays, rather than like on the front end, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Of, you know, the actual face and actually becoming a content creator. So yeah, it's creating jobs as well. But yeah, I think for people coming into it, I think you just got to, like, I think Twitter is a really important place for FPL. For FPL, like, content creators, right? It's one of those, like, Twitter is the kind of main social media hub for them. And I think if you're quite well known there, that'll give you more opportunities to do things within the content, the FPL content space.
Because you got the follow. I think Raptor said that to me. Like, when he launched his YouTube channel, he already had a pretty big following on Twitter, so it translates over a lot easier onto YouTube, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you just started off on YouTube without Twitter, I think you'd find it a lot harder to grow. I think posting those videos on Twitter every week, it just has that kind of, I mean, if it's like 5 or 10 subscribers a week, it's still something.
Yeah, it shows my knowledge because I started this channel and then someone said FPL Juice want to get in contact you don't have a Twitter, and I was like, Twitter? I'd been avoiding it for like a decade beforehand, but so you've already sort of answered.
Oh, so did you create this channel?
Yeah, correct.
Did you create this channel before you had a Twitter?
Yeah, I created this in October, and then someone said to me, "You need to set up a Twitter," and I set it up. So I wasn't literally, I wasn't in the YouTube community until I set up this channel. I mean, I've been playing for 10 years and been watching everything, but no one would have known who I was.
So that's interesting. Let me ask you a question then. Would you like? So when you were watching FPL content on YouTube and that, were you aware there was like a community on Twitter and things like that, or not at all?
I was. I just I don't know. I didn't really feel like what I had to say was worth saying. I guess I know it sounds a bit self-deprecating, but not in a. I think in a verbal format, I've got some interesting things to say, but in a written format, even now, all I do is really post the videos when I record them and repost, mates' videos and stuff. So, and Twitter's always had a bit of, I mean, especially now has a reputation, but it's never had a great reputation, has it? So,
especially now, man, it's gone in the pits now. With Elon Musk, you know what I mean? But yeah. So have you found that you're getting more subscribers since you joined Twitter?
Yeah. Well, I had 10 subscribers probably when I joined it, so they've kind of grown up hand in hand. But I've got like 500 followers now, and I've got about 1,500 on Blue Sky. So it's growing slowly. So the final two questions I usually ask in this section. I mean, you've already sort of answered one of them about FPL Salah, but also have you ever been? Next one is, have you ever been recognised out on the street? I always guess the answer to this one. I am going to say yes. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get recognised often, right? But it's weird, right? Because the first time I got recognised was it must have been maybe about 3-4 years ago, right? Not the first time I got recognised, but the first time I got recognised in my home city, and it was from like a Nigerian guy who just came from Nigeria. He came here to study, and he just bumped into me and said, like, he was quite shocked because he was like, "Oh, I watched you over in Nigeria, and I've just came here and I saw you like on my second day." So that was pretty cool. And I've never been recognised by any Dundonian or any Scottish person, which is weird because, like, it's not weird, but the thing is, I think when these guys see me, like, it's probably on the FPL show, right? And the FPL show that goes live around almost every country in the world, apart from the UK.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't show it in the UK. It's strange.
It's got something to do with copyrights or something like that. I'm not sure the exact reason, but something to do with that, right? So it doesn't go live in the UK, and only up until like so now it goes on TNT and Sky Sports later on in the day, right? Oh. But that's only happened for the last 2 seasons. So even before that, it was never on TV. It was just so if you're in the UK and you want to watch the FPL show, it was on YouTube. So you'd have to go on YouTube and watch it, or through the app, right? But with all the other countries in the world, it goes live. So I think it's a bigger thing in those countries. And when I went to Saudi in January, and I got recognised quite a few times there, like more times than I've ever been recognised, like in all my time, like, here.
Oh, nice.
And there's guys from like Africa and things like that. So so it's a bit of a weird one. So I'm not really known at all, like kind of locally. And it's just like kind of, I guess, random people, from other continents. And it's pretty cool, man, because honestly, when I first got recognised, it was again, it's one of those kind of surreal moments, like, wow, like, this guy watches me over in Nigeria, and he's just come and ask me for a picture. It was pretty funny. My wife and the kids were there at that time, and they were just like kind of looking at me like, "Why is this guy asking for a picture of my dad?" So yeah, it's pretty cool. But I don't get like recognised often at all. Just kind of, I guess, a few times over the years.
Yeah, I've got a guy, a big fan of the show. You may have heard of him. Probably not, because you're not. It's called Ricky. He's from. Sorry, mate, I forgot again. Cape Verde. That's it. And he's in his first season of FPL, and it's just crazy, like thinking about the people in like Africa and stuff watching it. It's just
yeah, it's mad, and it only really hit me when I went to Saudi, and I was and when I got recognised there, like a few times, I was thinking, wow, like what I mean, it's you don't really realize it because you just doing your thing every day, and like it's not like you're getting recognised out in the streets, but when you come to another country, it kind of, I guess, look, it just shows how big FPL is kind of becoming now. I mean, I'd imagine like the bigger YouTubers like Andy and Raptor get recognised almost every time they go out, kind of thing, because they've got like a massive following on YouTube and on Twitter as well. And it's, again, look, as I said, it's just a growing thing, and everyone's playing FPL nowadays. It's mad. I mean, the amount of guys who just come up, like all my mates who text me now and asking me for advice, which is it gets quite annoying because it does get a bit overwhelming, man. Like, I've honestly got about 10-15 of my mates like messaging me about what to do with the teams, and that kind of shows you as well, like people who never played it or didn't even know about it a few years ago are playing it now, and yeah, just the most random people.
What was it like in Saudi? Did you enjoy it? Because I mean, it's so much spoken about now in sports circles in general, isn't it? With like boxing going out there, and I mean, I'm a Newcastle fan.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, nice. I am. Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, mate, I see. So I went to Saudi. So I don't know if you know, but our two holy cities are there. Mecca and Medina. So I went for the kind of the pilgrimage, right? So I went to Mecca and Medina. So it wasn't really I guess a tourist visit. It was more like a spiritual visit, and like millions of Muslims go there, throughout the year. And
really?
In Ramadan, yeah, it's a massive turnout, man. It's like one of the busiest like religious places, or I'd say the busiest religious place in the world. So for me, it was quite a spiritual journey, and I love it for that sense, because the two holy cities are there, Mecca and Medina, and I love going there. But when you're talking from a commercial sense, right, like when you talk about obviously the boxing going there and the football going there,
yeah.
I mean, people criticize it, but there's there's bad things happening in this country, and our government isn't perfect, and I don't think you should conflate the two things. Yeah, and I don't think you should conflate, like, obviously if your football team is bought by Saudis or let's say Russians who you don't agree with morally, that shouldn't affect you supporting your team. You're supporting your team. It's not your fault that they've bought that club or what they're doing with that. So I don't think you should really conflate politics with football as such, if you know what I mean. I think it gets quite messy when you do that.
Yeah, it does, and I just wish they bloody bought us 10 years before, when they could have spent all the bloody money they had with that PSL.
Yeah, but look, how long has it been now? But I'm quite surprised they haven't really bought bigger players. I know there's FFP rules in place, but what's the situation with that?
I don't know. I mean, well, I think it just is FFP. I mean, they're trying to spread their money more across. I mean, I guess Man City did it sort of similarly, because Man City never bought the big players, have they? It's always been like the up and coming players.
I think in their first few seasons, yeah, you think you may be right. I remember them going for Robinho. That was a big one.
They did. That was right at the start, though. That was right
at the start, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like a couple of months in, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I can't remember the timeline for City, to be honest, but I would have thought, like, Newcastle would have bought in a lot of bigger players. I mean, they've recruited well. I mean, brought in Isaac, who is, is world class already. Bruno Guimaraes, you've got Tonali, those guys there. But They're recruiting well, but I just thought they would have bought in a bit more marquee signings by now.
Yeah, there's definitely smaller names than like Aguero, Silva, the sort of early Torre, the sort of early Man City signings. I honestly think it's FFP, mate. I think if it hadn't been for that, yeah, I think so. I mean, because we ended up selling Minter and the guy who went to Forest, Anderson. Both who are, good young players.
Minter is a player, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, just to balance the books. Cause I can't. Why else would you have sold them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're best prospects. But I like Newcastle. I hope Newcastle, it's one of those clubs where I think a lot of neutrals love them because Geordies are just great. Generally, they've got a nice little community up there, and generally not really kind of toxic, not a toxic fan base from my experience anyway.
Yeah.
But I hope they do kind of break that kind of, I guess, Liverpool City barrier. If it's going to be one team, I do hope it's them.
Well, yeah, it was amazing actually winning our first trophy for 70 years.
Yeah, congrats on that, man.
Yeah, it was
congrats.
Brilliant. So
you guys were getting a lot of criticism for celebrating that too much, but
no, I mean, it got to stages like I'm an England supporter and even I'm Irish really, but it just kind of got to this stage. I was like, I could die. I'm in my I'm in my mid-40s now nearly. I could get to the stage where I'd never see my club or country win anything. Like,
yeah,
that. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the next part of the interview now. If you are still watching at this stage, please do like the video to help get it out there. I don't know if you just let off if that was a scrape of the chair, Abdul, but
no, that was definitely a scrape of the chair.
Please like.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned it, just in case somebody thought I did let off.
there might be people just listening. Please like to help get the video out there. Please subscribe to help me get up to 800 subscribers. If you do this, it would mean the world to me. And I'm still laughing about the fart now. And please, if you want to support the channel further, check out the channel memberships. So I usually try and split this question into sort of two parts, Abdul. I think you'll be able to answer this because you did play for a while before you got into being a content creator. But has FPL ever had any effect on your mental health / mood? And kind of in two ways. One as a pure player, and if you can separate it, and then maybe as a content creator, because I know that comes with its own pressures.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, this was, I think Mark had a really good answer to this, and my answer is quite similar to his. Is, see, when I first started playing FPL, it really affected my mood, and I was a lot more pressurized than I am now because when I first started playing it was all at mini leagues and mates, and for me that pressure is more than I feel that pressure more than being a content creator. And
oh, really?
Yeah, because I think with being a content creator is I think having a good rank helps, but having a good rank isn't the be all and end all. I mean, there's content creators out there who are doing really well, who haven't got the best records, but they're still doing quite well in terms of their content and their kind of channels growing. But I never really felt that type of pressure, and it's a lot more friendlier, I guess, on the face of it than your mates who are just ripping you 24/7, expecting that text from your friend when you've had a bad game week and things like that. So
are you still in quite competitive mini leagues with your mates and stuff then?
No, see, that's the thing. I'm not really anymore,
right.
And so that's how the kind of pressure was taken off, and I just kind of, just played for overall rank. But then once obviously there is that type of pressure as a content creator of doing well, and you do want to do well, but it's just one of those things where I think as long as you play well over a certain number of years, I mean, and you've got a decent record, and it's not like in the millions, I think you'll be fine. And generally people don't really care. And I think as a content creator, maybe content creators think people care more than they do about your rank, but they don't really care that much. And I think that's something that people need to realize. But in terms of affecting your mood, it was like that's a big thing for me, because before it really did affect my mood like a lot. But then once I kind of got, I guess, more into like an analytical approach of it to FPL, like, once all the XG stats came out, and I have gone more towards, I guess, the analytics side of things rather than, grass. I know there's like a joke on Twitter, grass FC versus analytics FC. So I'm more of an analytics person, and I just find making decisions from an analytical viewpoint, where you're looking at facts, you're looking at numbers, and then making a decision with the best information you have, right? There's a lot less regret playing that way, because you're just thinking, look, I done the best I could with the information with the information I've got, and this is football, this is FPL. You're never going to get it right, and there's so much luck involved in the game. You just have to make the decision, the best decision you can at the time. That's all you could do. And I think once you kind of process that, like, really process it, you really start to handle the bad game weeks and the bad beats, much better than you would. I mean, if I was playing like, a more grass FC, let's just say, right, when I was like, making decisions with the eye test and, on my gut, then that would affect me a lot more, because I'm thinking, then you start thinking, I just remember, like, in the back of the day, I was thinking, oh, what was I thinking? That's so stupid. I should have done this, should have done that.
Yeah.
And you regret it, you think about it more, and it plays on your mood more. Whereas when you're doing things from like I'm not talking about like blindly copying models here. I know some people think that, like, when you're analytics, you're just blindly copying FPL review and all these things, but that's not the case. It's just a case of looking at the numbers and going for the best possible option based on the facts that we have, right, with the numbers, XG and whatnot, and expected value and things like that. So these are things which differ a lot within the analytics community. And I think once you make, for me, that was a real kind of game changer in terms of how it affected my mood. Obviously, it still affects you. Like, if you have a really bad beat, you're still like, you're crap. If your captain blanks or misses a penalty, it's hard not to, like, feel crap. But it's just one of those things where before it maybe affect me for like 2 or 3 days, now it's just a matter of hours. And I think finding other escapes, like, watching comedy, watching Netflix, things like that, anything that, I mean, I think for every person it's different, right? Every person has a different escape. And I think if you just find that escape for yourself, I think only you can do that. If you find that kind of escape from FPL, and if it's getting you down, if you can find something else to do to take your mind off it, just do that. And I do think that the more you play FPL, the less it affects you in a way. I think it's like a graph, right? Like, you play it and then you get to a point where it just kind of goes back down again, right? Because you realize over all these years you've been playing the game, it's like, you realize the amount of luck that's involved. You have your good seasons where you've been really lucky, and then you have your bad seasons. So you just realize the amount of luck involved. And when you experience that, I think you kind of have a better grasp of things. And I think a good example is like a boxer, right? When you first get punched in the face, it's really sore. But the more you get punched in the face, like, you kind of start rolling with it. You have like a botched nose. It still hurts, but not as much. So I think that's the example I would give.
I like that metaphor, being punched in the face. FPL does make me feel like that sometimes, doesn't it? Just a bit of a tangent. Do you know when people refer to people who use, well, maybe you can inform me. I don't know. Why do people say people who use FPL review are analytic managers? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of FPL review.
Yeah.
But it's a rate my team tool. It's not a, I know it's based on XG, etc. But surely an analytical manager is someone who goes and looks at the raw data. Do you know what I mean? Us people who use review like me are basically cheat. Go and look at.
Well, I mean, what you're doing, like just using FPL review or any other model, right? What you're kind of basically doing is you're getting all the kind of XG data, XA data into one.
Yeah.
You're getting into like a compressed format, and it's doing a lot of the manual work for you. Just say, for example, right, of you like going to check what this person's XG is, what his XA is, and then calculating, his expected points based on the fixture that he's got next. Whereas review just does that for you, right? But then there's so many things that review doesn't know, like, expected minutes where you've got to, bring your own minutes. Like, if a player, if a review has a player down for, like, say, 70 minutes and you think, no, that's not right, I think he's going to play 90 or he's going to play less, then that has a big effect on things. So review is just like I'd say it's more of a, I don't know, more of like a, I can't think of the right word here.
Summary of the.
Yeah, I'd say it's more of a unbiased friend. Like, just like, something you can run your opinion by. You can just check, like, just a sense check.
That's
something where you can.
The term you just used there was exactly what Praz used when I did unbiased friend.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be used. Right, and that's the way most, in my experience, analytic managers use it. There's very few people who I know who just blindly copy models, because ultimately it doesn't really work, because you've got to do a lot of your own kind of research as well.
Point, you feel shit even if your team did well if you were literally copying it. I mean,
yeah, if you're copying like another content creator or a model, like where is the enjoyment in that? Like, okay, fair enough. If you just want to beat your mates in your mini league, then fair enough, that's your goal. But if you actually want to enjoy the game and get better at the game, like, that's not the way to do it.
So this is a fairly new question that I've added in. I think I'm going to know the answer to this one, but what's more important to you in any given game week? Your football team's results, or if you have a good FPL game week? And also, do you ever make any decisions based on your FPL team? So, for example, if Salah was playing Man United, would you not captain him because you don't want him to do well? Or, that sort of thing.
I think one thing I've always done, and one thing I've never fallen for, is a sentiment in fantasy football. I've always separated the two. Like, I would, if Man United is the best fixture, I'll captain Salah against them, or I'll captain a player against them. That's not to say I want Man United to lose. It's just that if Man United is the best fixture, and I'll just go for the player who plays, who's playing against them. I'll captain them.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of separated the two. I've never been one of those where I'll pick 3 Man United players, or just because I support them, or something like that. So that's something I've never kind of fallen victim to for some reason. But in terms of like FPL or my team, like, it's always been like Man United before FPL. But as the years have gone on, and as I've got more into FPL and into my team and my ranks, you do see the kind of the FPL, I guess the graph kind of moving up a bit. But it's see when I watch a game, just say Liverpool are playing Man United, I'll hope for like a 3-2 Man United win with a Salah brace.
Yeah.
Like, if I captained him. So, like, I think of situations like that, like, and I hope for situations like that. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then fair enough. But just as the years have gone on as well, man, I've kind of, I guess, I wouldn't say fallen out of love with football or my team, but I used to go to a lot of games and, go down to Old Trafford.
It probably doesn't help Man United being shit.
Yeah, but that's true. But I don't think it's because of that. I think it's just more I've realised that there's more important things in life, like spending all that money to go to a game. And ultimately, you're just I think this might be controversial to some people, but the way I see it is that at the end of the day, you're a consumer. They want your money just like any other business. And I think you've got to just put that into perspective. Like, yeah, you want to support your team, that's fine. But there are other things in life that are more important, like your family, who come first. I actually remember, right, where I seen a Twitter poll a good few years ago where somebody had said, would you rather, like, I think it was like £50,000 or 100,000, something like that, or your team win the league? And for me, it's a no-brainer, like £50,000, right? Or
Yeah,
on the money. Honestly, like, absolute no-brainer. And I seen the poll results, and it was like almost 50-50, and I was like shocked. But then, and I just realised, like, I think that's kind of when I realised how different fans are from who actually live in the cities and have grown up around their club, than guys like me who live afar and aren't really involved in that kind of community.
Abdul, I'll say, look, as a psychologist who does a lot of questionnaires, you actually give people that choice. You see how many of them actually turn the money down. Do you know what I mean? I doubt it'll be that much.
That's what I thought. But then there was a lot. I remember commenting on it, and people were like, "Oh yeah, how could you take the money? If your teams win the league, it's like memories, money's not as important. Things like that. The usual kind of." I was like, you know what, fair enough. But for me, I'm not that big of a fan where I'd turn down 50k.
No,
for my teams to win the league, and maybe you're right. Maybe people are just voting for the other option because they just I guess want to prove to themselves that they're a real fan or something like that, or they might feel like they're betraying their club. But the way I see it,
then it also they can justify it to themselves if they ever go at someone like you who said the opposite. You know what I mean? Well,
and I remember getting a bit of stick for it as well. But I was like, I choose the money all day long, man. And that's not to say I don't support Man United. I do support them in that sense, but maybe I'm not a hardcore fan like the guys who are I guess staying there or whatever. But I just kind of as I've gotten older, as your priorities change, you get married, you have kids, and you think those things are more important, and things that provide for them for me are more important. And FPL is that for me now because it's an income for me. So there's obviously going to be that level of I guess kind of favoritism towards it.
So to put you on the spot, 50 grand or win FPL?
I say win FPL because that's tough. I'm thinking if you win FPL, right, you might be able to earn 50 grand just from being the winner, with
maybe,
I guess I don't know. Kind of I guess people like the BBC and Sky Sports and all these guys would probably want you on, and I don't know.
You're on the Premier League and stuff anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say 50k. Let me change my mind on that. I'd say 50k because 50k you get 50k in your hand, whereas you win FPL, fair enough. It's one of those things where it's cemented, but there's no guarantee you're getting 50k, and 50k is going to make a lot more difference to my life than winning FPL.
Yeah, I'd take 50k. I mean, I don't know if I was on 200 grand a year or something, in my day job, I would probably take winning FPL. Yeah. But unless you're very privileged, I would definitely say 50k.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I would say as well. I mean, if you win FPL, you might end up in 50k that year anyway. But that's just a speculation.
So what advice would you give to anyone, Abdul, who's struggling with their mental health or mood because of FPL this season?
Yeah, just as I was saying before, man, just take it for what it is, and if it helps you, I'd say make the decisions in FPL as a game. Make the decisions which would bring you the least regret. First of all, and if you're finding that you're kind of struggling with FPL and the results, then just try and take a more, I guess, analytic approach. Right, that's the first advice I'd give, because that way, you can only make the best decision before the deadline. After that, it's not in your hands. And also, I'd look at finding some sort of escape. For me, I like to watch comedy. I like to watch Netflix series when I've had a really bad game week and it is kind of affecting me. But I like to just kind of go out and do things and play with the kids or whatever. Just take my mind completely off it. But that works for me, right? That might not work for anybody else. So I just say find that's something that that takes your mind off it. Because it is needed. I mean, look, if you're watching this channel or if you're in the FPL community space, then you're really invested in FPL, and it's almost impossible for it not to affect you when you're putting so much time into something, right? And that's normal. So I guess rather than trying to not feel the effects of it, I just find things that take your mind off it, I guess.
Yeah. I had a bad game week the other week, and I've got into this series called Sutherns. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's
Sutherns is great, man. I love Sutherns.
Don't say any spoilers. I'm only on the first series, but it just took my mind so much off it. After I'd watched it couple of episodes, I was just like, "What's FPL?" It's just like,
Yeah. So did you like the first few episodes?
I've watched the first series now. I'm on the second
Oh,
one, like the second episode. It's just
how good was the season finale for this episode, for season one?
it was fantastic. Yeah, it was fantastic. I
Man.
mean, I was a big fan of Lost. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was that. I loved Lost, man. That was like my first like series I watched, and I don't like where they went with it, but that was so good when it came
Yeah,
out. I
last
loved
couple of
Lost.
seasons were a bit shit.
Yeah, they just
But,
didn't know where they were going, but yeah, Lost was great.
yeah, I reckon Severance could be that if they like don't go over the top and like end it like in a Breaking
Yeah,
Bad. Don't go too far.
yeah,
It
no, definitely.
could be really good. Yeah.
I mean, like, like some people, the people who watched the Severance, for me, they either hate it or love it. I totally loved it, man, and I think it's got the potential to be one of the greats, definitely.
Yeah, I love all the surreal, not knowing what to expect, all that sort of
Yeah,
thing. So we usually finish, Abdul, with I'm going to ask you a little bit about your very good FPL history here as well. Just asking how your season's going. So we are recording this on Thursday. I think it's the 10th of April. So the day before 32 deadline, where Crystal Palace Newcastle double game week.
yeah.
How is your season going, mate? I actually know because I watched your FPL hub video you did a couple of hours ago. But...
Yeah, did you? Nice one, thanks. Well, yeah, I'm at 235k, so I've not had the bit. This was actually the worst start I've had to a season ever.
Really?
So I was ranked like 4 million in game week 9. So I'm now at 235k. So I've got a chance of, I guess, getting a decent finish in the top 100k.
That's I'm very similar to you. I've had my worst. Not quite as high as you. I'm like 350,000, but yeah.
All right, so you're not far off then. But yeah, I mean, I think we've both got a chance to get in the top 100k. Hopefully, by the time this video comes out, we're both there.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, it's not been a great season. But my last few seasons haven't been my best, to be honest. Like I got 48k last year, and then 103 before that, which was probably my worst ever season, I think.
Good ranks for most people.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess you could say when you spend so much time on the game, you should be getting better ranks than 100k. And that was, that was probably the only season I guess I wasn't really happy with. But before that, yes. I mean, if you look at my rank history overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm just hoping to get like a top 10k in the next season or two. Because it's been this. If I don't get a top 10k this season, which is very unlikely, that'll be my third season in a row, which I've not had one. So, and I never gone like 3 seasons without getting like at least the top 10k.
I only had my first one last year.
No, you're only as good as your last game. So, I mean, it's a lot harder now to get a good rank than obviously, I'm saying the obvious here, but getting a top 10k like nowadays is some achievement. I mean, some of the ranks that I've got like back in the days was when obviously there's a lot less players. It was a lot easier to get good ranks. So yeah, getting top 10k in this day and age, mate, nothing to be found on.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you've had top 4, top 1,000 finishes. I mean, I've had a few good players on there. I had Trigger Lips, who I think has got exactly the same record. Yeah. I'm sure Mark Sutherns probably has something similar. You must be proud of that CV.
Yeah, you've got to be. I mean, I think not many people have got that type of CV. I mean, look, there's a lot of luck involved in FPL, and I think when I first started playing, there was a lot of luck there. And in my good seasons, like where I finished in the top 10k and the top 1k, I've had. You need like a lot of luck to get there. I mean, skill can only get you so far. You need a lot of luck to get consecutive finishes in the top 1k and top 10k. So when I'm having a bad season, I just think like I've had so much good luck in my good seasons, and this is just evening out really.
Karma sort of thing.
yeah, that's it. It's just like the laws of probability.
Yeah. Assistant managership. Have you played it, and are you a fan?
I have played it, and I mean, I done quite well on it. I think I got 40 odd points or something.
Who did you go
But
for?
I went for Slot, and then Glasner.
Same as me. I
Yeah,
think General went at the same.
did he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So
the
yeah, so I mean, that was,
great minds think alike, mate.
yeah, that's it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of going forward, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's really good for really engaged managers like us, right? Because we can plan for it, and it does require a lot of planning. It's not like an off-the-cuff ship, like a bench boost and triple captain. You can play in any game week,
Mm.
really. So it's good, but yeah, it was a bit of a hassle playing it for me. I don't think they'll keep it next season, to be honest. I don't think it's a chip where it attracts the masses, and I think that's what they're after.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I was surprised they brought it in, because it was everyone was talking about it as being the chip that would get the the casuals, the non-engaged back in.
yeah,
But I mean, you have to be like the Nostradamus to know what the chip was, and then the
yeah,
Einstein of FPL to be able to figure out how to use it. It was like the opposite. If that's what they intended, it was like the
yeah,
opposite of that. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think they may have overlooked things
Yeah.
when they introduced that chip, but yeah. I mean, I done well with it, but yeah, I don't think they'll have it next year, and I don't think it'll be missed by the masses either, to be
No.
honest.
Do you reckon they'll replace it with something else? Try and get
Yeah, I think they
excitement
will.
with
I
everyone.
think what they'll do is I think they'll keep that mystery chip aspect in there, um, but they might just do another mystery chip, or they might do like a different mystery chip every year, or they might just introduce one new chip which starts in January every year.
Yeah.
That's what I think they'll do, but I've got no kind of inside knowledge or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the I mean I quite like the mystery aspect of it because it adds another. But I think a lot of people, well, most people I've had on here would they just want to know from day one what the situation is.
Yeah, because it affects your chip strategy. Like if you don't know if you don't know what is coming in January, you don't know whether using your chips before January is optimal or not. So yeah, there is definitely that aspect, and I would prefer to know. And I think I guess for the kind of integrity of the game, so to speak, you should know what it is before January. But who knows? Um, I guess for them, it's just all about getting the numbers in, and that's what they'll do.
Yeah. So last question I need to ask Abdul is with a top four times top 1000k FPL expert here. What general advice, obviously not this season specific, would you give to someone to improve their FPL game?
Honestly, I would say become more numbers focused. I mean, this is not to say become like totally analytical and you need to look at models and things like that, but I'd say just kind of at least look at XG and XA. I think that will really help in your decision making when you're looking at players. I mean, with the eye test, it's fine. We all watch games and we can all tell things. But if me and you watch a game, right, for example, Gary, we might come to different conclusions, and then who's right, right? Whereas when you're looking at cold, hard facts and numbers, I think you can make better decisions. So I'd say maybe obviously if you're an eye test manager, keep doing the eye test stuff, but try and be a bit more analytical or numbers focused, and I think that will ultimately lead to better results. And one other thing I'd say is not to overthink things. I think when you're spending so much time in the game, especially again, people watching this or people within the FPL community, we're spending so much time on it, we tend to overthink things. But just keep it simple.
Can I ask you a random question? This isn't on my list. I did
Go for it.
I did a live stream with Trigger Lips last night, and he threw this one at me because he knows I'm a big FPL review fan. If for
Yeah.
one season, and I mean it's a bit of a flawed question. I might add it into this interview series, but I'll ask you how he asked me. One season, you can only have access to FPL review, FPL YouTube, or live. The games live. Which would you choose?
What the actual game?
So, I mean, so you can watch the 10 games, but you don't have
Oh,
any other information.
I'd go for the games.
You go for the
because
games. That's easy.
yeah, I mean, because ultimately, look, a lot. Like, I don't think I go without a season out watching football, right?
Yeah.
And I think I would back myself to still maybe do quite well without. I mean, YouTube wouldn't be a problem. As I said, I don't really watch much FPL content. I do watch, when I've got time, but it's not something that's really big in my decision making. If you know what I mean, it's more for recreational purposes and things like that. So yeah, I guess I would just go for the games. I don't think you don't need FPL review. I just said it's just something there that you can sense check, and I think generally people know like who the best players are, and when you've got the fixtures, you know which players to target and things like that.
Awesome. Abdul, thank you so much for coming on, mate. We've been going for about an hour and 25 minutes. So I said it would usually take about an hour off, didn't I? So
yeah, well, yeah, that flew in, man. That did not feel like an hour and 25. So
no, it didn't
thanks
at all,
for having
mate.
me on, man. I enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure talking, mate. Anything you want to say before we finish up?
Well, not really. Just I guess I've really enjoyed your videos. So if you are watching this, just make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Gary's doing a great job, and he's bringing something new to the FPL scene, which I always respect. And I think these series deserve a bit more kind of respect and exposure.
Thank you for your kind words, mate. Thank you for watching. Please do like the video to help me get out there. Please do subscribe to help me get up to 800 subscribers. And I will see you in the next one.